Welcome everybody to our group call for the 25th of May. Hope you've had a fantastic weekend. I certainly did, but predominantly I was working on the tools this weekend, so quite an active home around me this weekend with the kids around, but also focusing on the coding. So yeah, all good. Last week too was quite a phenomenal week on my side. Working with the tools, doing some major updates around the tools, and making sure they're more consistent. So we're going to cover more of that on this call, and also look at our game plan for the week ahead, along with everything else. All right, let's quickly look at that. So thank you to the guys sharing results in the group results chat. So some very awesome results shared there, and a special shout out to Bruce, who is really becoming consistent using the system. And of course, everybody has their up and down days, and that's perfectly normal. So it's just how to deal with them, how to come back the next day, remain focused, and just keep on keeping on, as they say. We've also sent out an email last week. So we've recently started sending out weekly newsletters, which we never did before. So a really awesome new thing that we've jumped into. A lot of companies send emails all the time, and it's just only fitting that who's providing the best software for trading is actually also sending out these newsletters to make sure that people are aware of of who we are and what we offer. And part of the newsletter from this last week was a promotion where we're giving away gift cards, Amazon gift cards. So there's going to be a number of gift cards given away. And there's a survey inside that latest email, which I would love for every subscriber to, not only our paying subscribers, but also any person who is interested in trading or has even downloaded our complimentary tools to complete the survey, because it'll really help us assist you in offering the best service possible. And we've also moving all of our complimentary subscribers to a completely new licensing system. So we've got many hundreds of complimentary subscribers who have taken advantage of our free tools. So it's been a huge overload on the server that I'm currently on with the constant license checks. So I'm actually moving all those licenses to a completely new server. And this is a great time to basically flush out anybody who's not using the tools. So anybody who is using the complimentary tools, you're required to complete the survey, which is also going to include your machine ID at the bottom, and then I can move that. I can license that on our new licensing server and get rid of the old one. So please make sure you actually complete that, so we can ensure that your license is carried over successfully. All right, perfect. And we're also going to be covering our game plan for the week ahead. So this week, as last week we were running NQ charts, and I was updating settings during the week, and there was one day that I didn't update settings. I did that on purpose because I wanted to see if the existing settings actually produced the results that they were supposed to. And there was a little bit of inconsistency around what some people were getting compared to what I was getting. So that meant a complete rework of the indicator that produces the tools, or produces the signals for the automated strategy. So I did a complete reboot of the indicator, and actually found a way to make it a lot more accurate too. So I was very excited doing that. And sometimes things happen for a reason, and it's when you really dig deep and you really go really into something, and try and discover exactly what the problem is. You persist and you persist and you persist. That's when you start getting these aha moments where the universe says, you know what, I'm going to give this to you. And that's kind of what happened last week with these tools. And I was able to make this indicator a lot more a lot more successful, really. Okay, so we're going to look at that also. And So let's jump into the game plan for the week ahead. So that is going to be this one over here. So if you had to look at the documents for the game plan, so you'll notice on our on the document for the game plan, here it is over here. Okay, so I've updated the text on here. There were a few little issues earlier regarding the text, so that has been actually rectified. So make sure you're on the 25th of May assembly. If you don't know how to do that yet, these are the instructions to do that. We've had a few new members join this week too, so please make sure that you are registered on the Discord channel, because that's how you're going to access all these links. And what we're doing this week is we're running 4 MNQ charts. So I'm taking it a little bit easier this week with the charts that we're running. And I'm running MNQ because I'm actually running 4 different strategies. And the cool thing is you can run this on each. If you've got 4 different accounts, you can run each one on each account. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be updating settings. I'm going to be pushing new things to the strategy or to the charts. And it's a lot more experimental when we can use MNQ, you see, because we're not using any stops and targets on some of the charts. We're not using any daily stops and targets. So it's really going to be, I wouldn't say an experimental week on it, but I'm going to be doing a lot of, high volume trading as well as lower volume trading, depending on the different templates. So perfectly suited to the MNQ charts. And obviously, later on as we progress and as we, become more and more consistent using the system, then you can copy these trades to NQ charts. But for now, this week, it's a good idea to run these on your MNQ. And, let's see how we actually do this week with them. So I'm excited about what we've got the week ahead, especially with the work I've done in the back end. So after you've loaded up your workspace, this is what your charts will look like. And to get those, all you have to do is follow the link inside the game plan document, which is that one over there, and that's going to take you straight here to the Analytical Strategy 1, where you got those 4 templates loaded. So this information is pretty much the same every week. It's just telling you exactly what the automated strategy is, what the settings that the auto optimizer is controlling. So all of these settings over here are basically controlled by the automated strategy, and they're going to be updated, in real time. So the start time, end times. I don't know why I put you at 9 a.m. It doesn't actually need. There doesn't need to be a start time like that. So I'll just remove that. But so that's just showing that these are all the settings that are actually being updated, by the push through settings from the auto optimize feature. So I'm just going to quickly take this away, and then we'll just continue. So this is obviously a shared document, so you guys all have access to it. And we'll stick to the operating times of 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. this week. So that's what we're going to be doing with these 4 templates. So let me go into the charts over here. Again, we've had some incredible signals from our show me the money signal chart. I think when we started the call earlier today, we were on this candle over here. Then we had a few breakout markers left behind up top here, I remember, and then coming back down, a bit of bounce around, some arrows, reversal arrows. So incredible options or opportunities today to jump into positions. Phenomenal chart this is. Okay, so let's go into our game plan for the week ahead. So if I go to my workspaces and I go, I'm just going to close this one. And I want to save that because I want to update that. Okay, so going to our strategies, you'll see according to the game plan document, you load the Analytical Strategy 1, you go template, you go load, and you load template number 1 on the first chart. So you'll notice when you load template number 1, it's going to come up with settings over here. Like this one here says 250, 0, 0. Stop. It's got stops and target. I think I have actually updated this template for to show the current settings. But generally what's going to happen is when you activate the strategy, you may see random settings in here. And this is if you're using the auto optimize feature. So if you got this box ticked, it means that this strategy is going to download the settings from the server for the specific template. Okay, so once you've done that, choose your trading account you're going to trade on, go enable, apply, and OK. And as soon as the strategy loads up, it's going to show settings in there, but you always need to just click F5 on your keyboard to refresh the chart, and that's going to put in the actual results there. So I'm going to do the same with the second one. I've already got the strategies loaded according to the settings, but you would do the same thing there. Template load number 2, which it'll show template 2 in there, which is exactly what you want to see on the second chart. So that's 3. I'm also going to refresh that chart, and template number 3, which will be this one over here. Okay, again, F5, get that going. Should make sure I did that one. I did, yep. And then strategy number 4 for the fourth one is the template number 4. And you'll notice too that our setting B, you'll see I've increased the value of that. So we'll look into some optimizations around that value too. And let me just activate this. So I wanted to hone in a little bit on this last template, and it's something that I don't think any of you have really done, have already done with the strategy. And I'll just deactivate the camera so this can be showing on the screen. So with strategy template number 4 of the game plan, you'll see that the results over here, like this is 1,320 with the 127 drawdown, 73% accuracy. And you'll notice that if I scroll back on this chart, and we're going to the specific trading hours, right? So this basically ends, this one ends at 8 a.m. That's why we haven't got trades for the later periods. But what this one is doing is it's actually entering trades. It's entering reversal trades. So it's acting on the signals that are optimized for it, but it's entering reverse trades instead of trend trades. So you'll see when the price is below the brick wall, it's going to buy. When the price is above, it's going to sell. So these are obviously been optimized. So this is not generally how this indicator would work, but it's basically finding the worst settings for trend and it's making it in reverse. That's basically how optimization works for this. So you'll notice that this is how this indicator is going to be entering positions. Okay, so I'll just scroll back a little bit, go to another chart. So obviously it's a beautiful thing for like a choppy day where the price is going up and down because it's entering these these type of positions. So there we had a signal, price broke below, went up briefly, but then actually came all the way down. So it's acting on that specific signal and then taking the price down. We'll go even further back. And there's another one over there. So this strategy is also entering up to 2 positions for every signal. So it's going to enter, if two signals happen in the same direction, it's going to enter 2 positions, which is what this one is doing. There's another example of the trades over here. And I'm just going to pop up the Discord chat. So if you want to ask any questions during the call, just pop onto the group calls chat over there. So I'll monitor them on the side. Okay, so a very cool setting. And what I've done over here is I've made this one 400 stop and 400 target. And like I said, these settings could be adjusted during the trading week. So during the week, once you've got the strategy loaded, you're going to have these settings update. So all the settings that the strategy actually works with are going to be, updated in the back end without you having to do anything to the strategy. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can accomplish with this week. I'm going to switch this over to my live account later, and I'm actually going to be trading trading all 4 of these charts on one account. So that is what's going to be happening this week on my side. But ideally for you guys, having one per trading account, it's a good way to reflect for each of those accounts. Okay, let me bring up that strategy analyzer. So if I go to new strategy analyzer, so the cool thing about these templates being updated in advance is you can actually go and work with them yourself if you wanted to. So if you bring up your optimization and you bring up the analytical strategy 1, and even if you bring up that template that has been loaded, so if you go template load and we'll look at number 4, it's going to bring up all of those values. And then you can just deselect this use auto optimize feature, because now you're going to actually run your own optimization based on what those settings are. So doing this over here, see we've got stop ticks and target ticks. We've got our values over here. So what we can also do is I'm going to just disable the stops and targets temporarily. We can optimize between 2 and 10 and 2 and 180 in increments of 2. We can leave the others off at the moment. Yeah, you got the option to adjust your start and end times, but I'm just going to run it exactly how it is over here. And we'll select our MNQ. We've got our dates in there. I've only done the last 2 weeks. Well, actually, the last week. So this is the last week's worth of data. And basically running this. So let's just run this and see how this goes. And what you'll notice too is when you run optimizations on this strategy, your memory is going to be consumed up eventually. But what's going to happen is that it's going to release the memory after the optimization has completed after a few minutes. So I've also been able to do some back-end work with the strategy so that it's not going to be holding on to a lot of the system resources. So that's a very cool thing, which is a bit understated because, memory consumption is quite a challenge with NinjaTrader. Okay, so like that is running an optimization, not using any stops and targets. So if we look at the specific chart, we'll notice that the strategy is only going to be entering positions based on the signals and not going to be respecting or not going to be working with any stops and targets. So definitely look at this work in the optimization too, because like there you'll see how these actually work, and what they're basically doing is that they're going to be trading up until the trading hours. So there's no stops and targets. It's specifically targeting, the trading hours, entering between the start of the trading hours and to the end. So again, that's how it's going to look. So this is just letting the strategy trade according to the signals and not using any stops and targets, because what we've actually done is we've disabled the target ticks and the stop ticks. So, if this is initially how I designed the strategy to run, is not to use stops and targets. It's just to, run from signal to signal. And that was on reverse, but we can also do the exact same thing on trend. So we've got our trading type, we've got trend. So that was done, that specifically was done on trend, as you can see. So sell, buy, but we can also do the exact same thing on reverse. So running that, and we'll get optimization settings that work on reverse. So I also encourage you guys to run your own optimizations this week using this strategy, and you can run it also for different times of the day. But try use the feature of not having stops and targets, because you'll notice that whenever you run optimizations, you're always going to find the results are much higher if you are not using individual stops and targets for the entries. Of course, you can still use your daily stops and targets, which is your dollar amount. But, with regards to actual, the signals themselves, like that one there, you see it returned 1843 with 127 drawdown. So this is, doing the same thing over there, just entering reverse positions based on that. And it will tell you which position it's taking, because the text of it says AS1V Analytical Strategy 1 version 1 reverse sell 2. So that it's basically telling you that this is taking reverse trades, because the description of the trades is showing reverse. So that's a cool optimization for there. And for those guys running the New York session, if you want to do a more of a the busier time of the day, what you can also do is you can change this from like 9 a.m. So we'll do that now. So 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and we'll make this 11 a.m. and we'll run the same over there. Now, obviously, this is only 1 week. So if you want to do slightly larger period optimization, like even the last 2 to 3 weeks, that's also fine, because this again is a heartbeat indicator. So it doesn't help optimizing 6 months worth of data, because the heartbeat over the last 6 months completely changes. So work with the very specific trading hours that you want to trade, and work with data that is not too old. And it's got nothing to do with curve fitting, because at the end of the day, we are, this is a totally different indicator and tool to anything else that exists out there, because it is predominantly a heartbeat indicator, not working off stupid minute bars or anything like that. Okay, so like that there was 1,442, 45 trades, 82 drawdowns. So again, this, if you come back to this one, you'll see over here. So like that will be it's basically signal to signal, optimized for reverse. So there's the start time, which is 9 a.m. and up until the end time. So again, ideally to be used with MNQ, because you don't want to have a situation where you're running NQ and the price is coming down by 424 ticks, which is like, if you did that on NQ, that's like $2,500 with drawdown. So a lot of you guys might have these drawdown affected performance accounts or whatever you're using, which don't allow you to have a very high drawdown. Whereas with MNQ, this is only going to be $200 odd, right? It's not going to affect your overall, your overall drawdown. So just bear that in mind when using this. But as you can see, it kind of spreads out the signals nicely, and it's signal to signal. And the same thing can be done with trend. So, it's a cool idea to be able to run a few different iterations of the strategy on different accounts. So the game plan is only trading from 10 p.m. till 8 a.m. But there's nothing stopping you guys from running your own optimizations like this between like 9 and 11. And the good thing about the strategy too is it doesn't work with limit orders and stuff. So it works straight away with market orders. So it's not going to have the same. NinjaTrader is able to work more effectively with the strategy because it doesn't have to deal with complicated order management. Okay, so let this run, and you'll see it runs pretty quickly. Our optimizations do not take a long time with the strategy, and as I mentioned, it actually does release. So you'll see this, it's 4.8 megabytes. So like there's a optimization for 9 till 11. And again, like I said, this is only using, the last week's worth of data. So if you can get a few good settings, and obviously they're all listed over there, so you can review some of these. And if you want to go and extend that time a little bit, you can certainly do that. So even if you want to go from 27th is probably a bit far off, but even if you want to go from the 11th to the 31st, because remember we are currently the 25th, right? So if you're going to do the last 1-2 full weeks of data up until current price, so if today is the 25th, so always put like the 26th on your end date. I mean, you could put the end of the week too, but sometimes NinjaTrader doesn't give you accurate data if you choose the wrong end date. So if you choose the day ahead, sometimes it'll only show you up until the previous day, and sometimes if you use the day in advance, it'll show you up until current price. So it's always a good idea to run your optimization and then have a look at your actual chart tab to show you exactly where that data is actually giving you up until. So we'll let this run. Again, you'll see we'll keep an eye out on that. Now I did flush out the data on this one, so it's going to re-download that data for that specific period. So we'll give that a moment to do that. So the values that we're going to optimize on here. So I definitely encourage you guys not to use stops and targets for this strategy. You'll be very surprised how beneficial this is. And if you do want to use stops and targets, use like a much larger value, like as in 400 stop and 400 target, just to give it a larger range to work within. Okay, A and B. So, but the setting B, like I said, can be between 2 and 180 in increments of 2. You can go between 5 and 180 in increments of 5. So that's also fine to be able to do that. Same with setting C. I'm not even using it in this example. We've got obviously the indicator on the chart, but what I've also done over here is I've put here indicator plots. So if you untick the indicator and the plots, you're going to have the optimization run a lot quicker. Okay. If you want to include the history and the indicator, but you want to take away all the arrows on the chart, you can untick this. And what this third box does is it'll obviously not show the arrows and the brick walls on the chart, but it's going to still give you all the right signals. And the idea behind this is to use less system resources. So obviously every single time NinjaTrader is letting an arrow print, letting lines print, it's using a lot of resources. So this is going to, speed up your optimizations and use less resources if that is selected. And obviously there's your start and stop trading times. You've got your blackout periods, which all work. Obviously your days of the week. So everything else is exactly the same. Your signals, you can also optimize for which ones you want to use. I'm not using daily stops and targets. That you can definitely use in there if you wanted to. But, the rest is obviously the bar size you can actually work with. So there you've got, we've got a 20-20, but you can certainly play around with a few different values of that. And you don't have to worry about using different bar sizes with the stops and the targets, because the strategy is taking positions with the signal, and it's entering, market orders at the price. So as long as you got your slippage in there, which we've got, you're going to notice that the strategy is taking, sell positions and buy positions. So and it hasn't got stops and targets. So there's no need to worry about, the value that you are putting in your stops and targets. If you are using them, even if they fill on the same bar, it'll still be accurate. Okay, so there we can see how this actually takes positions. And if I can go back a little bit. So like this is how this is going to take positions, you see. You'll notice that the percentage profitable is a bit lower, because what this is doing is it's relying on longer running positions. And because this is trading with the trend, it's not it's taking all of these signals around the brick wall. So you see sometimes the price can bounce around the brick wall like this. So, obviously leading up until this, we had, very nice. As soon as the price runs away from a brick wall, those signals are going to be extremely powerful, as you can see. But if the price is just bouncing around these brick walls, you're going to have a lot of losing positions in this type of area over here. But then, as the price runs in a direction, it's going to take all those positions. So that's why you're ending up with, a lower percentage, but a very decent overall net profit, because it's actually using that type of thing. And this is only working on 2 entries per direction. You could use, 4 entries per direction, and you could also increase your trade size. So if you don't want to use like a 1 contract, you can increase that to a 2 contract or 3 contract. So that is, all inside there. With the trade size. And where's the trade size? I think it's a little bit lower over here on the settings. There we go. So there's the trade size, which you can actually select over there. So we can do this exact same optimization, and we could be running reverse on this one. So let's do that. And then we'll see how differently the signals actually present. So not too long for the optimizations. So also, if you check on your game plan, all of these charts over here, so you could take one of these charts over here. So you can go into your strategy like this. Okay, so any one of these charts that are already optimized for the game plan, you could go into the strategy like this, and then what you can do is you can go you can untick the box, and then you can go template save, and then you can call it, whatever you want to call it, like this. And then, you can re-tick this box and reactivate the strategy, because that's obviously your game plan template. And then in your strategy analyzer, and that's where you can actually select the template. So in your strategy in your strategy analyzer, you can go templates, and you can go load, and you can bring up that template, and then you can use that as your starting base for your own optimizations, especially if you liked a certain thing. Okay, so here we go. Here's the reverse optimization. So as you can see, we've got some decent results here, and you're going to notice that the percentages are going to be a lot higher on reverse. And that's because it's taking all those trades around those brick walls as reverse, you see. So there's some good optimization results over there. Actually showing a very, very nice fluid trajectory there. We've got some ones over here. So this one looks quite impressive. It's only 20 positions though. Okay, so 1 or 2 trades a day. So if we look at the chart on this one, you'll see how this one is taking positions. And again, this is only between the 9 and 11 time frame. And you'll see that the positions are going to run for a lot longer. There's your thing over there. So you'll see how this takes reverse positions. So you'll see it did a sell over there and a buy over there. That's why it's like almost 100% profitable. Coming back. So this strategy here, at the moment, we can't choose the trade size for each entry, but our analytical strategy 3 is the one where we can actually use individual stops and targets for each entry, and actually trade size for each entry. But I still need to review that strategy with the indicator that it's using and update that indicator accordingly. So like that one, here is one with 156 trades, which is a lot more trade. So you'll see it's it's got a bit of a higher drawdown. Same type of concept though with the reverse, but you'll see how this takes the trades. It's taking it's moving those brick walls to a position where it's determined that, these are going to give the best reverse trades. So guys, I definitely encourage you to check out the strategy this week. And a very good starting point with it would be to use the existing game plan templates that have been provided, and saving those templates and then reworking them for different times of the day outside of the game plan hours, and then see how you guys can actually trade, see how these perform, for those periods. Good. So that's basically what I wanted to cover this week on the call. So like I said, I'm going to be updating these throughout the week. So all you need to do is basically load up the workspace, let the charts actually run, and then I'm going to be optimizing in the background and pushing through new settings to the strategy, which is in the same format that we discovered on last week's call. Okay, cool. So that was a bit of a shorter call today, which is good. Last week was quite a big marathon, explaining all the the ins and outs of how the strategy actually does the order optimize updates and all that. And this week I just really wanted to cover this strategy. And of course, it's not the only strategy that we're working with. Some of you guys are working with the baseline wick trader. All the optimizations for that strategy would need to be redone if you've used previous versions of the assembly, and that's because the core signals being generated are generated from a highly updated indicator, which is going to produce a lot more very powerful signals. And just like I mentioned too in one of the chats, if we loaded up a chart, just a normal chart, any type of chart, let's just stick with MNQ. And we could even just go for the 20 and the 20 like this, and we'll just go 3 days, and we go to the indicators. So the indicator, an amazing thing to do is use the optimization, which we've just done. But as soon as you load a chart, you can pop on your SI indicator, and I think even when I activate this, even with default settings, which is 2 and 2, it's going to show those brick walls of price resistance. Now remember, these brick walls stay in place the moment that they're actually placed. And even just using the 2 and 2 as the default settings that this one has, you've got a very, very high probability of success trading this just by using the brick walls. And it could be the price coming down, bouncing off a brick wall, closing below, good opportunity to sell. It could be the price coming down from a brick wall, bouncing off a brick wall, green bars, good opportunity to buy. So, it's looking at, what the brick walls are telling you. And if we use one of the templates on here, so I'll switch to one of the templates. So this one here is a 250. So if you look at the game plan strategy, you'll see that the setting there says 250, 250. So you could go into the indicator and you could put this as a 2 and a 50 and a 0. And now that is plotting according to how the game plan is actually, going to be trading this week with those values. Now, it hasn't plotted this line yet. It will plot it as soon as it comes, but the coloring of the bars is going to tell you exactly where those brick walls are. So let me just see what I've done over here. I just want to go into the indicator settings. And I sort of adjust this quickly. 250 up. Yeah, so I just had to load up the indicator, click on reset. I had to reset everything because obviously the default template was different. So load up the SI indicator, go template reset, and then change those values to 250 like this. And then that's going to show. I don't know why it didn't show there earlier, but there we go. So now what's happening is the chart is matching those brick walls. You see? So again, he has an amazing opportunity for entering positions based on the coloring of the bars, as well as where those brick wall placements are. Cool. So then now you've got an amazing template that you can work with that can work alongside Show Me the Money. So a really awesome, extra confirmation of trades. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Have a fantastic week, and I look forward to seeing how you guys progress. Okay, cheers.